cold day out there. Last week, I made a mistake. I accidentally flipped the names of Adam's son, Seth, and Noah's son, Shem. And I give their lineage. Everybody's descended from Noah, is descended from Seth. But Noah had 3 sons, and the Semitics are only descended from Shem. But there is an interesting thing, all the descendants of Ishmael are Semitics, all the descendants of Esau are Semitics, all the descendants of Lot are Semitics. So for people to only award this name to the Jewish people is not fair to the other Semitics, because they've taken an identity. And they said, if you'll see, as we study through these lessons, a lot of emphasis is put on bloodline identity. And I'm not a perfect scholar by no means, but I'll tell you right now, there's one thing that works with God, that's faith. You believe. Today, if you don't believe the gospel, I don't know who Grandpa is, you're going to hell. It don't make no difference. But so many of our people are putting bloodline as to pertaining to your salvation. Some of them, we start with Cain. Cain was a serpent seed. They said, well, he was the son of Satan, literally. And therefore, his descendants received all these here bad outlooks on things. But Cain was a serpent seed because in his heart, he followed the devil. His father was, from my understanding, Adam. We run into this thing again, and we get over in the 6th chapter. People teaching that the world, that fallen angels came down and they married with human women and raised children. If you really follow that thought through, how many fallen angels are there? And how many times could they marry with human women? And what kind of race would we have? We wouldn't nothing have a pure human race. We'd have a totally mixed up race. So, but again, they're trying to put, I feel, that because these people's ancestors were fallen angels, therefore he caused them to be evil. I don't believe that. I believe you're evil because you choose not to obey God. I believe you're saved because you choose to obey God and believe the gospel. Now, we got down maybe in the 20th verse of the 4th chapter of Genesis last week, and I'll admit, never taught Genesis, never heard it taught. I've read different things in it, but I'm finding out when I'm starting to study it, I'm catching things and reading. I'm 79 years old, but I'm catching things that I never paid attention to before. Been going to church for 64 years.
Amen.
When you get to you can't learn, you stop learning. And you learn a lot of times from interaction with your brothers and sisters. Now the 20th verse, I'm not going to try to pronounce these names, a lot of them, because I don't read too good. And Adah bare Jobal, and he was the father of such as dwell in tents, and such as have cattle. Now, understanding here, if we take the scientific theory of evolution, this would have took a couple of million years for this to happen, at least. That you could start dwelling in tents, herding cattle. This took millions and years. And his brother's name was Jobal, and he was the father of all such that had the heart and the organ. In evolution, it's an impossible thing for this to be. He was about, what? Just a few down from Adam. And yet, all of a sudden, they got harps, they got organs, they got blacksmith making things out of metal. And according to the evolutionary theories, this would have to take tens of millions, if not a billion, 2 years for this to happen. But yet we have these people doing this in just a few generations down from Adam. So how's this possible? I believe God taught them.
Amen.
I believe God taught them. Just like Adam, when he said, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, cleave with his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh." He never had no father, no mother. He never had no brothers and sisters. At this time, he didn't have no children. So how could he know to make this statement pertaining to marriage? God taught him. God taught him. And this is, on marriage, is all civilization based. Now, Jesus is the cornerstone of the church, but civilization, the cornerstone of civilization is marriage. If you raise your family right, and your neighbors raise their family right, and their neighbors raise their family right, you'll have a proper community. But it's why Satan attacks the family with every bit of power he's got. Because if he can break the morals of the family, the nation is automatically broken.
Yeah.
Because God gave a man and a woman. And I was thinking, I heard talk of somebody saying somebody got engaged. And you know what? If two people get engaged, married, if they both do what is right in the eyes of God, I can guarantee they'll never get a divorce. They'll never beat each other half to death. They'll never go out and tell a lie on each other. But if they don't do what's right in the eyes of God, only God knows all that. And the verse 22, and this son was an instructor of every artifactor in brass and iron, and his sister Tubal was none. And Levi said unto his wife, call her name, "Hear my voice, ye wives of women, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. Cain be avenged 7 times, and Levi shall be avenged 77 times. Now this, he killed a man, obviously. And he's claiming that he's going to be avenged 77 times. Commentaries different a bit on what is that, whether or not he was just murdered a man or whether he acted in self-defense. But here's the thing about it. We can bring it down to me and you. We choose to do right or wrong. It's up to us. Each day, it's laid before us. We choose to do right or wrong. And if our life is that we choose to do right, then everything will work out for us in the long run. Some of these fellows I ain't exactly sure me. Then it says, Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him that also was born a son, and called his name Enos. And then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. Now, again, evolution would say religion was a product of boundaries, monkeys, stones, trees, and over so many billion years, they created religion. But it's not like that. They started out with one true God, and what happened is many people have degenerated from that original knowledge of God. In this man's day, people begin to call on the Lord. Now, some say he was called by the name of the Lord or something, but it seems like there was a plurality of worship. It might have been worship was an individual thing up to this, you know, you just dealt with God individual. I'm not sure. But in these days, men become to call on the name of the Lord. And I'll say something today. The Bible commands me and you. You know, we say, well, we believe in the commandments of God. Yes, sir. The Bible commands me and you. And not to get to assemble ourselves together. It's much more so as we see that day approaching. It should be a desire of all Christians to be found in a place of group worship. We call it church. And we call the building church the church. We call it the church house. And what it is a group gathered together. The body of Christ is the church. When we gather together, they call the house the church. I don't find no fault with these identities. But the thing is, we need to get together to worship God. And you know why? We need each other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We need each other. There will be things that I will never be able to comprehend like Steve could, even though we both seek God. There will be times that no one preacher is going to preach to the level of God. Preachers need help from other preachers. Singers need help from other singers. I know we've got organized preachers, and organized teachers, and organized singers. You know, they got everything lined out, and they got it planned out, and they got proper timing, and sometimes they can put on a good performance. But that's all they got. It's just a performance. We need something that God is in, even though it's put on by amateurs. Now then, Adam knew his son, his wife, and she had Seth, and this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that he made man on the earth, and he gave him and grieved him in his heart. God created man in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day that they were created. Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness and after his image, and called his name Seth. Now it seems like Adam duplicated himself. And Seth inherited the weakness that Adam's sin had caused. And the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, for 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. There's something I never paid any attention to. For 800 years. This is on, how can we imagine this? You've got a man and a woman, basically, God done a perfect job. He made them in perfect health. When they're 130 years old, they have a child. That's going to be the bloodline. After this, they live 800 more years, and they have sons and daughters. So how many children did they have? When you really, I done just a simple thing. I said, okay, each 100 years, we increase by 10. You know, each family has 10, you know, and next family. I said, what you come up into, you start out with 10 the first 100 years, you come into the millions of people in 1,600 years. But here's Adam and Eve. A healthy, perfectly healthy man and woman. Perfect health. Virtually. Their body is strong enough to live 900 plus years. In 800 years, how many children would a man and his wife have? 2, 3, dozen, 50? It's, if you had one every 5 years, that's 20 per 100 years, and 1,600 times 20. You know, it becomes an immense number of people for the time of the flood. Oftentimes people talk about the ungodly descendants of Cain, the godly descendants of Seth. What about the other brothers and sisters? Where do they fit in? See, what I'm pitifully trying to get at, your bloodline ain't nothing to do with it. What God wants is your heart. You believe God, it works for you. You don't believe God, it don't work. I don't care. I don't care about grandma. That ain't got nothing to do with you going to heaven. This is the thing about it. There was, within the second generation, there was numerous people that were not the children of either Seth or Cain. There was a number of brothers and sisters. Then, in all the days that Adam lived, 830 years and he died. That's 800 years after Seth was born. Do you know that puts him a little over halfway to the flood? And Seth lived 105 years and begot Enos. And Seth lived, after he begot Enos, 807 years and begot sons and daughters. So now you have the second generation. They're living, and this all the way down to Noah. Enoch is translated. Noah's dad died young, 777 years old. He's the youngest man to die. Enoch got translated, so we can't count him as dying. The other men, generations, as we come down to Noah, each one of those men, except Noah's dad, lived about 900 some years old. And they produced sons and daughters. So, Methuselah actually, now I didn't do the math on it, but he comes down very close to the flood before he dies. And as we're going to look at, I don't buy the godly line too much, or the ungodly line. Look, how many brothers and sisters did Noah have? How many aunts and uncles? How many of them got on the ark with him? Not one. Not a one. Now then, and he lived 807 years and begot sons and daughters. And he was 912 years old when he died. And Enos lived 9 years and begot Canaan. And he lived, after he begot Canaan, 815 years and begot sons and daughters. And we got this duplication over and over and over. We have these man and his wife, their bodies are still very healthy, for whatever the reason is. They seemingly didn't have no problems with viruses and flus and poison chemicals from factories and things like that. So they had very strong, healthy bodies. I believe the thing that weakened the human bodies was sin among the people. Gradually, you do something that causes you problems. And the weakening down and degeneration of things is because of sin in the world. Now, Adam lived 800 years, begot sons and daughters. Seth lived 800 years and begot sons and daughters. Enos lived, after he begot Canaan, 850 years and begot sons and daughters. Now, we've got his children are the great-grandchildren of Adam. But Adam is still living when he's born. Because he's only born about 235 years. Seth is after Adam and Seth. He's on. So we see Adam's life is still going on, even though these people are born. So people say, well, how did they know? Actually, Adam come down almost halfway to the flood. Well, a little over halfway. Methuselah goes almost up to within a few years of the time of the flood. So we have practically first-hand records with their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-grandchildren while they were still living, where they said, now this is the way it happened. God done this, then we done this, and God done that. And all the days since were 905 years and he died. Well, since he was born maybe 235 years after, he outlives, he's coming down in the neighborhood of 1,100 years after the creation. And about 1,600 years, 50 years or so before this recording, you have the account of the flood. So, and he lived, Canaan lived 7 years and begot, I don't know how to pronounce that, and he lived after this boy 840 years and begot sons and daughters. So we have How can we imagine those people? They were so healthy. Here I'm, be 80, first of the year. My children said, Dad, you shouldn't go nowhere. You drive down south no more with yourself. You get too old. Dad, you should be careful, you know, and you should leave this particular door, the starter door unlocked, because so we can unlock the door and come in if something happens to you. And here I'm only 80. I'm 80. They're preparing for me to die. Well, here these people, at least after one child's born, I'm not sure always, that might not have been the first child, but this special child, after he is born, they live 800 some years, and they're getting sons and daughters. If I started out today 800 some years, we'll see 10 times as long as I've lived. It becomes, to me, it don't register. I know that's what it says, but it don't really register. Why did they live that long? I believe that. And also, a lot of people believe, though I don't know if the Bible can prove this, that the world before the flood was much different than it is now, that the world was a semi-tropical climate, and since it didn't rain, you didn't have no storms. You had no frantic weather patterns. You had no poisonous areas. So you lived in almost a perfect environment, and you lived almost 1,000 years and you died. And during this time you had children, there was no opposition, and there was nothing. I read nothing about the government. All this time I read nothing about the government. Actually, this seemed like these people individually dealt with God themselves. No doubt they had tribal groups, family groups, but first having centralized governments, I see one, he built a city, but how did Cain build a city? This time we've only got records of Cain, Abel, who was killed, Seth. Cain has a son and builds a city after his name. Now what I'm getting at is, a lot of things in the Bible gives us the high point, but it does not fill in all the basic information. And in that, we get attacked. Because, well, we can't prove a lot of things. But here's the thing about it. The story of salvation is plainly written. And that's all I need to know. I don't have to be able to speak the same language Cain spoke. I don't know what he spoke. He might not have spoke hillbilly. But see, dear thing, what I need to know is, from Adam to Christ, there is a bloodline. And I feel that I need to believe that there ain't no fallen angels in that bloodline. Do you realize that it would be almost mathematically impossible for some of Cain's and some of Seth's family not to intermarry? And if Cain started out, this makes Jesus part devil. To me, it's a ridiculous statement to teach that any humans are the product of mixed marriage between supernatural beings and humans. Okay. And all the days of Cain was 910 years, and he died. Now, I don't know, when it comes down to dying, he don't say about him getting sick. It looks like he got, within the 900 years, the Lord just takes him. He lives that long, and then the Lord does him. But it said he died, and he lived, this other one lives on 65 years, and he begot Zerah. And he lived after he begot Zerah 830 years, and he got sons and daughters. Oh, he only lived 895 years. After we have the record of his child. 835 years. 800 and years, and for 900 of those years, he's begetting sons and daughters. And this one, Jared,
Jared,
lived 162 years, and he begot Enoch. Now, he lived so long, and the others had some children so much younger, I sort of wonder if Enoch was his oldest child. I wouldn't argue with somebody that said he was, but here he's 162 years old before Enoch was born. The others mostly had children at a much younger age. Anyway, and all the days of Jared was 962 years, and he died. 962 years, and he died. And yet lived 65 years, and he begot Methuselah. Now then, I didn't do the exact method of counting, but this puts Methuselah almost to the flood when he dies. So, I believe God gave right to the early people, but regardless of that, probably, I might be off for 50, 75 years, but likely as not, Adam and Methuselah's life interaction. Adam lives what, 930 years. Methuselah lives what, 969 years, which makes what, 1900 years. The flood comes at 1650 years. To get you something, according to these figures. The flood.
Brother Johnson, doesn't Methuselah, if you look at the age of Noah, Noah died, when he did. It looks like, because Methuselah, and I've heard it and I've looked it up before in the Strong's, his name means when he is dead, it will come. And it looks like Methuselah is right there and dies right when the flood comes.
Right at the time of the flood.
Yeah.
Within a few years. Noah's dad apparently died maybe right at the year of the flood. See now, godly line of Seth, only 8 of those people got on the ark. That don't say much for the rest of it. All Noah's brothers and sisters, all his first cousins, all his uncles and aunts that were still living, they didn't get on the ark. But Noah was a righteous man before God. He was a perfect man, impossible. The word perfect actually means he was just exactly what he's supposed to be. It didn't mean he couldn't make a mistake, but he was the man he was supposed to be. And therefore, God felt him perfect. And that is something I don't mean to tip on nobody's toes. But Dave's living right, and he's walking to what God has taught him. I believe when God looks down at it, though, he can make mistakes. But when God looks down at him, and he ain't got nothing, he's doing everything God said that's sin, Dave, I ain't doing it. God looks down at him, what does he see? He sees a man with nothing wrong with him. So God sees Christian perfection because you're what God taught you to be. I know everybody don't agree with that, but I believe there's a difference in making mistakes, coming short of because of your knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and deliberate sin. I believe there's a far difference. I don't believe God will send me to hell for making a mistake last weekend on a Sunday school lesson. But if I deliberately got up here and taught something wrong deliberately, then I believe God would hold me accountable for that. Now then, and Methuselah and Enoch walked with God, and after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and begot sons and daughters. So after 365 years, the Lord translates him. He walked with God, and he had this testimony, that he pleased God.
Amen.
Now, that's the thing about it. You can have that same testimony, that you please God. What do? It's the same thing that Abraham's law. Look what a man Abraham's built to be in the Bible. But you know what he done? When God said, Abraham, get up and go.
He went.
When God said, Abraham, take your son up on the mountain. He took him up on the mountain. Whatever God told him, he believed it and he obeyed it. So he was a friend of God.
Counted him for righteousness.
But did he ever make any mistakes?
Probably.
Yeah. Ishmael was a mistake, definitely. God didn't tell him to father Ishmael. And you know what? It's an amazing thing. Ishmael was Abraham. Paul said Abraham had 2 sons. But when God speaks to Abraham, he said, take thy son,
Thine only son.
thy only son.
Amen.
God did not recognize Ishmael. But Ishmael is a Semitic different thing as Isaac was, because he's descended from Shechem. Esau and his lot. I'm saying a whole lot of this, but the point I'm getting at, bloodline ain't got nothing to do with salvation. Salvation is a matter of your heart, my heart. Do we believe the gospel? Have we got our sins covered by the blood? Now then, Methuselah lived 100, and Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begot Lamech 882 years and begot sons and daughters. His sons and daughters almost had to be, some of them living in the time of the flood. But you see, again, it's the man that will believe God. It ain't who your grandpa was. If it had been who your grandpa was, everybody that would have been a descendant of Shem would have got on the boat. The Lord would have had to build a bigger boat. But it wasn't that. It was the man that walked righteous before God. That was the man that was saved. Now then, and Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son, and he called his name Noah. And saying, this same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. Noah, now how did he know that? How did he understand that? It was going to be a blessing to Noah. God had shown him. I hate too much believe in this. I don't know what the word for it is. You know, you just sit around all of a sudden you understand the future. Something that spiritually has to deal with you. So God had to show this man that something would be a blessing to him. And he lived, after he begot Noah, 595 years, and he got sons and daughters, almost 600 years. When Noah's 600 years old, the flood comes. It appears that Noah's dad lived about 5 years of the flood. It would seem like an enormous amount of Noah's brothers and sisters were alive at the time of the flood. And what happened? They paid him no money. When he preached get on the ark, they didn't do it. They paid him no money. He got brothers and sisters. He had brothers and sisters born over a period of 595 years. And not a one of them got on board the ark. You know why? Say what? He didn't get on board because he was Seth's great-great-great-great-great-grandson. He got on the board because he was a righteous man before God. Because he was a man that obeyed God. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. After he was 500 years old. I suppose, I'm guessing at something here. I suppose the Lord let Noah wait until he was 500 years old before he had his children. So his children would be only 100 years older at the time of the flood. Could you imagine children listening to their dad 500 years, 100 years after they were born?
They don't
And
listen
still
to
paying
him after
attention to what
30.
he said?
They don't listen to him after 30, let alone 500.
So, there's a lot of things that's very hard for us to comprehend. Their lifespan, the world they lived in, the environment of that world. No rain, probably no storms, no snows, no nothing. And so, Noah lives 500 years, he's got 3 sons born to him. And it came to pass when men began to multiply. Oh boy, I read over. I'm sorry.
Around, brother.
And we'll start with 6th chapter next week. Listen, if I said anything, if I touched your heart with anything, it ain't what your grandpa was, who your grandma was. It's what you have in your heart toward God. It's whether or not you believe God, whether or not you walk in obedience to God. Look at Abraham, Noah. What got them in the wonderful positions? They believed and obeyed God.
Amen. That's right.
And God, and it was kind of frightening. Noah made a terrible mistake after the flood. But now, here's one thing about it. Me and you are blessed beyond them. We have their witness to read about. We have their stuff. We're blessed because we have the words of Jesus telling us things that we should leave alone. They didn't know, really, not to get drunk. But we know plainly it's a sin. All right.